Hello and welcome everyone to the seventh and final class of the Niche Content Crash Course. Today we're going to be learning about how to apply your newfound writing skills to actually make money as a writer. Now there are a lot of different ways that you can really go about utilizing these skills. And so the objective of this particular class is to talk to you about a wide variety of these different methods, to share some of my tips with you as far as how to go about doing this successfully. That way you can kind of pick and choose depending on what your needs are, what you would prefer to do, to decide what your best course of action will be from here on. Now, ultimately, these different methods that I'm going to be teaching you today, there are a lot of aspects to them, especially ones that involve working for yourself, such as building entire websites. So obviously there is not enough time within just one training class to teach you every single step of all of these different methods. But I'm either going to be showing you some of the general aspects of it, talking to you about them, and at least pointing you to how you can figure out how to do certain things on your own from this point on. Now, the first of these that I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about involves working for yourself. Now, ultimately, when you are writing for yourself, there are some different risks and rewards that you kind of have to weigh to decide whether or not this is the right thing for you to do or not. For example, by working for yourself, you really have the potential to make the most money. However, this is in the long run. When you're first getting started, it can actually involve doing a lot of work and not seeing any kind of an immediate income from your efforts. But as time passes and you build up some of these projects that you are working on for yourself, it can get to the point where it turns into more of a passive income, where at some point down the road, you may not have to continue to do this work for yourself, and yet you could just sit back and collect a check each month for your efforts. However, one of the biggest risks that I really need to express to you about this is that it is entirely possible to spend a lot of time working for yourself in this regard and to not actually see any income from your efforts, because the income having to do with writing for yourself is solely based on results that you can drive from that work. This involves getting traffic in most cases to visit a website, and ultimately you need for some kind of action to be taken by this traffic in order to earn money. This could involve selling a product to them. It could be your own product. It could be a product you're promoting as an affiliate. It could be something as simple as clicking on an advertisement on your website. It could even be selling a book or an ebook to this traffic. But all of these things require some kind of traffic and also some kind of action to be taken by that traffic in order to earn something. So for this reason, if you are in need of some kind of immediate income. I'm talking about within the next month to 3 months or something like that. Writing for yourself may not be the best choice for you, at least not initially, or at least not to the point where it is consuming all of your time. Because again, it takes a little bit of time to get all of this rolling and for you to generate an income and then for that income to actually make it into your pocket. For example, with an affiliate website, most affiliate networks will pay you 60 days after you have actually made the money. So if you begin work right now, even if you could have a website completed and live by tomorrow, anything that you make for the rest of the month will end up getting paid to you 60 days after the end of that month. So for an affiliate website, you're looking at typically a minimum of 90 days to actually get some money into your pocket. And sometimes it can take even longer because, again, you need the traffic and you need for that traffic to take some type of action. I am going to be talking to you in just a little while in this class about ways that you can generate a fast income to where you could do work today and get paid by the end of the day or within a couple of days or by the end of the week. Something that is much, much faster in terms of generating income. But the immediate income generation really requires a direct trade of your time for money, just like it would in a normal job. So when you're writing for yourself, you have the potential for a lot more than that. You have the potential to not just trade your time directly for money, but to work for yourself, to put forth this effort for yourself, and that same work can continue to generate an income for you every month going forward. With that said, if you are in need of quick money, but you would still like to try working for yourself, I really recommend to try to devote most of your time to doing the next method that I'll be talking to you about, which is freelance working, to generate an immediate income, and then just try to spend a little bit of your extra time, whether it's each day or a couple of times a week, doing work for yourself until you can build up this passive income to the point where this is all you have to focus on. It can take a little bit of time doing it that way, but it is very possible to do. That's actually how I got my start as an internet marketer. I began as a freelancer, working for other people to generate immediate money to help pay my bills. And then I worked for myself on the side. And once all of that was built up, then I stopped doing the freelance work and solely focused on working for myself. So I want to talk to you about a number of different methods that you can use when you are working for yourself, doing your own writing. In some ways, a lot of these methods require the same type of thing. It's just a different way of going about creating something, a different way of how you actually earn the income. That is the main difference between at least most of these methods. So the first of these methods is by creating an affiliate website. This is one of the best ways to try to make a passive income, in my opinion, simply because you do not have to create your own product. While you do have to generate traffic and get that traffic to purchase something, you're not actually the one that is involved with completing that sale. You just find the people that are interested in it. You help with your writing to increase that interest to the point where they do want to purchase the product, but ultimately landing the sale, collecting the money, doing customer service, all those other aspects, that all lands with the vendor, the person that is actually selling the product. So you don't have to worry about those things. You don't have to worry about creating a product. You don't have to worry about purchasing inventory to have products to sell. So with that said, there are a couple of major types, different types of affiliate products that you can try to promote and refer sales on. One of the most well-known is by using Amazon. This is where you will be promoting physical products on the Amazon website. When people buy them, they get shipped to the customer, and you earn a percentage of that sale amount. However, there is also something called a digital product, where it's an intangible good, something that people are buying online and it gets automatically delivered to them, typically by email or through a website. So for physical products, you can use an affiliate network such as Amazon, one that I personally use and recommend. For digital products, you can use another one that I personally use and recommend called JVZoo. Even though the JVZoo products are typically limited to marketing types of products. If you want something outside of the marketing realm, you could even try something like ClickBank. They have a lot of digital products that cover a wide variety of both marketing and non-marketing related niches. So with that said, no matter which kind of product you choose to promote, no matter what you're actually promoting, which affiliate network you are using, this approach allows you to simply focus on building your website, which then attracts traffic and generates these sales and allows you to collect a percentage of the sale price as your commission. And once the sale is complete, there's nothing else that you have to do. Now, ultimately, building an affiliate website, the large majority of the work that goes into something like that is the writing. The content writing actually takes more time to do than any of the other aspects of the website. Once you have your writing done, you're basically just assembling the site using those different articles that you have created. Now, I recommend using WordPress for any of the websites that I'm going to be talking to you about today, any of the types of websites, simply because you don't need technical knowledge to be able to create these websites. And there is a ton of training out on the internet, a lot of it free, that is available to teach you how to use WordPress to be able to assemble these sites. Now, when you are writing for one of these affiliate websites, you really should be focusing on two main types of articles. The first one is going to be informational content. This will help you to attract the majority of your free targeted search engine traffic, with each article topic being related to a specific keyword phrase. And then this info content should basically be helping you to pre-sell a product that you want to promote. The second type of content is product review content. And this is what's going to help you to convert that traffic into clicks on your affiliate link or your affiliate ad, And then again, it's the vendor website that is really responsible for converting that traffic into sales, which will then result in you getting a commission for it. Now, with this type of website, you really need to focus on having your informational content and your product related content to be very relational to each other. What I mean by that is don't start with the informational topics. I really recommend to start by figuring out what exactly it is that you want to be trying to sell, and then ask yourself, what would people be searching for to find information about that product? Or what would people be searching for that might lead them to need that particular product? Just as a wild example, um, I'll pick snow skis. Let's say you find a set or a couple of different sets of snow skis on the Amazon website that you want to promote and try to refer sales on. What kind of informational topics could you come up with and create on your website that would help lead people into that particular sale? A couple of examples: you could create articles having to do with specific ski resorts or ski slopes, provide information about them, talk about the cost of renting a set of skis when you go to one of these places. And this could lead a way for your readers to want to actually purchase a set of snow skis themselves for one of a variety of different reasons. Maybe they go snow skiing on a very regular basis. Maybe they want a higher quality snow ski than what you would typically be getting from one of these rental places. Maybe it's just a matter of cost. If you're going to spend $50 or $100 renting a set of snow skis, but you could buy your own for maybe just a couple $100, if you plan on visiting a place like this with any kind of frequency going forward, it simply may be more cost effective to buy it yourself. You could also have informational content having to do with anything ski related. Maybe you provide educational articles where you teach somebody how to ski, where you teach specific skiing techniques, things of that nature. So hopefully this will help to give you some ideas as far as the type of informational content that you should be trying to create on one of these affiliate websites, and how you connect that informational content with your product review content. By having these logical connections, it not only helps you to attract the traffic, but it gives you really easy, straightforward, common sense ways to be pre-selling those products, to convince people that they need or would be better off purchasing one of these products to assist with the things you are talking about in that informational content. Now, the next kind of website is something that I call an ad-based website. Technically, an affiliate website could be considered an ad-based website, but what I'm really referring to here is advertising that you create from some type of advertising network where you're not getting paid for referring a sale, you're getting paid for referring different kinds of actions on that advertising. The most common and typical of these is going to be something called PPC, which is pay-per-click advertising. This is where you will be generating earnings each time somebody visits your website and clicks on one of those ads. All they have to do is click on it, and you get a percentage of whatever the advertiser is being billed for each of those clicks. Google AdWords is a very well-known, commonly used network for this type of advertising. And if you're building a content-rich website, this is really the kind of website that a network like this is looking for. So they will readily accept you and be happy to have you on their network. One other main alternative to this, it takes a little bit of extra work to get this one to work, but it can also offer more potential earnings for each of your visitors that is actually performing this action. And that's something called PPL, which is also known as pay per lead. This basically allows you to earn money every time you get a visitor on your site and they continue on to the advertiser's website as a lead, where they will be perhaps joining an email newsletter list. Maybe they will be providing their personal information to later be contacted about buying a certain product or a certain service. One of the best and also possibly highest paying examples of something like this is in the insurance industry. There are all kinds of different insurance: life insurance, car insurance, home insurance. The list really goes on and on. These companies, though, that are selling this insurance, they are constantly looking for new potential clients, and they will actually pay you to send them not a guaranteed client, but just simply somebody who is interested in possibly signing up as one of their clients. So you refer somebody to them that is interested in maybe setting up a life insurance policy, and they will pay you a certain amount of money for each of these leads that you actually send them. Now, there are a lot of different networks that offer this pay-per-lead type of advertising. But one of them that I've used that's also extremely easy to get into and to get started with is called Commission Junction. You can find them at cj.com. And then you simply use their website to search for the types of advertising you would like to promote. Now, CJ also does more than just pay-per-lead advertising. They also have physical products and services, even digital types of services that can be sold on their network. So CJ.com really gives you the potential to have a wider variety of different types of advertising that you would have access to use. Now, when you are building an ad-based website, you again would want to focus on using something like WordPress to create these websites. But as far as your writing goes, you should really just be focusing on the informational content, because you don't have to worry about actually selling a product. So you don't need product review pages with one of these ad-based websites. You just need high quality content that will actually bring traffic into your website. So that's why it's extremely important for this type of site, especially, but in my opinion, for any of these types of websites I'll be talking to you about today, to put a very large focus on creating rich, useful, high quality content that people actually want to read, and they might even be inclined to share with their friends on social media. You also do still need to consider what it is you are trying to get somebody to do. For example, if you are trying to get somebody to sign up as a lead for life insurance, then your website should be all about life insurance. You should have informational content about life insurance that would help to lead people into taking the action that you are wanting them to take so you can generate an income from it. Now, these ad-based websites will typically require a fairly large amount of traffic to really generate a decent income, especially a pay-per-click type of a website. So that again is one of the biggest reasons why you need to have quality content there, because you need that traffic to attract itself to your website. If you have really low quality content, it's going to be very hard to get somebody to your website. It'll be very hard to get them to actually read through your content and to then take the actions that you want them to take. Another thing that I recommend for this kind of website is don't just build a website of a certain number of pages or articles and leave it at that. This is really more the kind of website where you would want to try to continually add new articles to it. Something that would encourage repeat visitors, where you have loyal readers that actually come back to your website on some kind of a regular basis to see what you have published most recently. Now, this constantly adding new content to this type of website, it does take extra work. However, you can really do this on any kind of a frequency that you are comfortable with. If you think you'll only have time to create one new article every month, then create one new article every month for that website. If you can do it once a week or a couple times a week, or even once or a couple times a day, the more content you can add, the better off you will be. The quicker the website will be able to build that loyal audience, the more traffic it will be likely to attract. But this can really still be done successfully at any level, even if you're just putting out one new article on that site every month or something like that. Now, by building up this base of loyal readers and then continuing to get new traffic on top of it from search engine searches, you really create a site that has the capability to increase its traffic level over time, which will also help to gradually increase your income over time as well. Now, the next kind of site that I want to talk to you about is called an audience building website. This type of site can really be used in combination with other kinds of sites that I'm going to be talking to you about in this particular class. The point here is to help you to build up that group of loyal readers, but you also want to have a way of actually getting in contact with those loyal readers instead of just depending on them to remember or to bookmark your website and to return there with a certain type of frequency. You want a way that you can reach them. That way, when you publish new content on your site, you can send them a message and say, hey, I have a new article about such and such. Click on this link to go and take a look at it. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you can build this audience, and it's completely up to you which one or which ones you decide to use, just depending on what you are comfortable with, or maybe even what you feel like will work the best for what your website is about. But the most common methods for this would include creating an email newsletter list where you simply get people to provide you with their email through a company such as Aweber or GetResponse. And then you can just send an email out to your entire list each time you publish a new article on your website. You could also do something like creating a Facebook group. In this case, it still works pretty much the same way. You still need people to go and join your Facebook group. You can direct traffic to that from your website. And you're also still having the ability to contact people when you publish a new article by simply creating a new post in your Facebook group to let them know about it. But in a lot of ways, a Facebook group, I feel like, is more useful than just an email newsletter list because it's not just a one-way communication. You can actually engage in a conversation with your readers about the new content that you have published. People can also more readily share your content to where if you create a post about your new article and they go and read it and they really liked it and think that some of their friends would also like it, they might be inclined to pass that link along for you and to help you to generate even more traffic, maybe even to help you build up the audience for you. Now, again, with this type of approach, just like with the ad-based websites, you really want to put your prime focus on informational content because you need people to like your site. You need them to actually want to come back to your site in the future. And you also need to convince them that it's worthwhile to be joining your audience, whether it's signing up for your email list, building or joining your Facebook group, or whatever the case may be. You also, on this kind of a website, you want to constantly be publishing new articles, creating new pages on your site. And then every time you do that, you just simply let your audience know about it. You provide them a link to that new content to drive more traffic to it. Now, again, this is a method that you can use in combination with pretty much any of the other writing for yourself methods that I will be discussing with you today. In my opinion, though, it's something that is best used in combination with an ad-based website because the content needs for those two types of websites are the same. You're looking to create the rich, high quality, useful content that people will readily want to consume. However, you can use this method for something like an affiliate website. You could use it for direct sales. You could even use it for book writing. For example, any book that you publish, if you provide a website address that people can visit to join your audience, then in the future, when you create a new book or a new ebook, you can easily reach out to your customer base and let them know about it and drive your own sales in a fairly short time period by having access to this audience. Now, the next kind of site I want to talk to you about is called a direct sales website. We discussed direct sales writing within this particular course. And so this was definitely something that I wanted to touch on in this particular class. However, out of all the different types of websites that I have been talking about today, creating a direct sales website is definitely the most difficult and the most time consuming. But it's not really because of the content writing that goes into creating one of these sites. The reason why it is difficult is because you actually need something to sell. Whether this is a digital product such as a ebook, a training ebook, an informational type of ebook, whether it is a video course or whether it's even physical goods. All of these different things require extra work and extra effort to go into it. If it's a digital product that you're selling, you have to actually create those digital products, whether it's a book or a video course or maybe even website software. If you're trying to sell physical goods through something like an e-commerce style website, you have to deal with the inventory. You have to be able to purchase that inventory. You have to have a place to store it. You have to take pictures and write up descriptions and get all these listed on your website. You have to actually refer the sales yourself on those products. And then you have to worry about shipping them out to the consumer. You have to worry about providing customer service, maybe even doing returns on some of these products. So there's certainly a lot more work that goes into pretty much any type of direct sales website. In my opinion, though, out of any of the potential choices that you could make for a direct sales website, one of the easiest to get started with, and it's also one of the most beginner friendly ones because it requires a fairly low amount of additional skills. There's really no kind of startup cost to get involved in it, would be creating ebooks. And this is something I'll be going on a little bit more about as a dedicated writing for yourself method in a few. But this is something you can certainly do on a direct sales website. This is actually how, one of the main ways at least, that I got my start as a marketer that sells products to other people. I told you earlier in this class that I really got my start working online doing freelance work. But then I progressed from doing freelance work to doing writing for myself, to building various types of websites, building affiliate websites. I created my first WordPress plugin that I then started selling. But one of the easiest ways that I got into making that transition was by creating fairly simple, low-cost ebooks that would teach people how to do something in particular, something having to do with what my website was about. So by making one of these training or educational based types of ebooks and selling them for a fairly low cost, I recommend something in the $7 to $9 price range. You usually won't make a killing off of selling a product like that, but it's a great way to kind of get your feet wet, to get used to doing this type of work, to get used to what it takes to refer direct sales on your own products. Now, for a direct sales based type of website, you really want to focus on informational content to help you to attract traffic, just like you would on any of the other kinds of websites that I've been talking to you about. But then you also need your direct sales pages, the page where you lay out what it is that you are trying to sell to somebody, to where you have a payment button that is integrated on that page. And then you are taking the traffic from your informational pages, sending it along to your actual sales pages, which are then responsible for converting that traffic into purchases. And this is even something that you can combine with other techniques. One of my earliest websites was actually an audience building website where I would offer them a free ebook that I created to get them to join my email newsletter list. And then once I had people that were a part of my audience, I could send out promotional emails to them and direct them along to sales pages that I had on my website to try to sell other ebooks to them. And eventually this grew into selling full-fledged training courses, and videos, and software. Now, to actually get started in something like this, especially with the digital products, you can consider using a vendor network such as JVZoo to make this whole process easier for you. Although you can definitely try to do all of this yourself and to not use a vendor network where maybe you just set up a PayPal button for somebody to purchase a product and then you handle the delivery, you handle the creation of the payment button yourself, you handle actually building your customer email list yourself. But with a vendor network like JVZoo, you can list a product there for free. It can also help to attract affiliates to your product that would help to send you traffic in order to earn a cut of the actual sale price. But even if you don't want to use affiliates, if you just want to sell the product yourself, using a vendor network helps you to simplify the whole process. It'll create the payment buttons for you. You can have it automatically connect up to an email list to where anytime somebody buys one of your products, they're automatically added to your customer list. So then you can contact them in the future about other products that you create. The vendor network can also handle the automatic delivery of your product. Now, the final method of working for yourself that I want to talk to you about today is doing book writing. This could involve writing a physical book that somebody actually gets shipped to their home. This can also involve the creation of ebooks, like I was talking about before, with one of the options at least for a direct sales website. Ultimately, as long as your ebook is of a pretty substantial size, you can actually do both of these things with the same book. I personally use free open source software called OpenOffice. You can find this at openoffice.org. It's basically just like Microsoft Office, has all the features, has all the different word processor and spreadsheet programs that come along with it. But I utilize the word processor to actually create my ebooks. The guidebook that you have received with this class and with all the other classes in this series were created using OpenOffice. And you can easily export those ebook files into a PDF file. And the PDF file is what you actually distribute as your ebook. Even the slideshows that I have used for this entire training program, those are also created with OpenOffice. So you can even use that same free software to help you to create videos and full-fledged training courses. Ultimately, that same ebook file, that PDF file that you would create, it's also something that you can pass along and have turned into a physical book as well. Now, writing books, whether it's a real book or a digital book, It's a really great way to put your writing skills to use. These books can be for a wide variety of different purposes. They can be educational, they can be more training based, where you're teaching people how to do something particular. It can be purely informational type of content. It can even be entertainment based, where maybe you're writing a novel. This is a really great way to also build a passive income source, because you do the work one time to create your book, and then you can continually sell that same product over and over again going into the future for as long as you want to, or at least for as long as it would remain relevant. Now, there are certain kinds of books that you create that might lose their relevancy in a year or a couple of years. But then there are other kinds of books that even 10, 20, 50 years down the road, they're still just as good as they were the day you wrote them. For example, a novel is really never going to lose its relevancy. So you can build over the course of time a library of these different products. And numerous years down the road, you might have 5, 10, or even a couple of dozen of these books that you can still be selling all at the same time. And this obviously builds to a point where it's creating a passive income that makes more money for you than you could possibly make by doing a direct trade of your time for money, like you would in a normal job or like you would even doing freelance work. Now, this is also something that you can combine with other methods that I've been talking to you about. I mentioned the ebooks and direct sales. This can also be tied in with audience building types of websites, just to give you a couple of examples. Now, you can do this type of stuff. You can sell and distribute these ebooks on your own websites, but you can also utilize third-party vendor and affiliate networks to generate the sales for you. You can certainly publish digital ebooks on JVZoo, for example, as a product. But one of my favorite places to utilize ebooks outside of using them in my own websites, at least, is actually with Amazon. Amazon offers a solution for both digital and physical books. And both of these do not require a penny to actually get started with. One Amazon company is called Amazon Direct Publishing. This gives you a really easy and free way to publish and sell your ebooks. And this is actually happening on the Amazon website. They have a huge library of ebooks on Amazon that you can buy. They even have ebooks that you can download for free on Amazon. And while you wouldn't really consider it, you can actually make money off of giving away your ebook on the Amazon website. Amazon, if you know anything about them, you probably know about their Amazon Prime membership. One of the benefits of something like this is to be able to get ebooks for free. And so you can actually distribute your ebooks for free on the Amazon website. And anytime somebody downloads one of these ebooks of yours for free from the Amazon website, you get a portion of a pool of money that they set up every month based on how many subscribers they have to that service. And so you wouldn't really think that it would generate a lot of money, but a lot of months you can actually get a couple of dollars for every free ebook that somebody is downloading. And while that doesn't sound like a lot of people actually download these free ebooks. And so even just one of these ebooks can often generate at least a couple $100s a month on the Amazon website. If you get a decent library of these books together and have them published on the Amazon website, you can actually make a pretty decent full-time income just from doing that. And once you have those books created and published out there, you can just sit back and collect the checks once you have built your income to the point that you're happy with it. You don't have to continue working forever if you set up doing writing for yourself in the right way, in this manner. Now, I also mentioned that Amazon does physical book publishing. And I also mentioned earlier that you can use the same ebook and have it turned into a real book. So you can do work one time to create a book and have it published as both a digital book and a physical book. And all this can be done through Amazon. It doesn't even require for you to have a website. Another one of Amazon's companies is called CreateSpace. CreateSpace lets you upload an ebook and then they will publish it as a real book. One of the best things about this, though, if you don't know anything about actually publishing a real book, it can be quite an involved process. It can involve a lot of startup money because you have to actually pay for each book that is getting printed and distributed. And a lot of times you have to do that before the book is even available for sale. So sometimes you might be looking at thousands of dollars to have a certain number of these books published and printed. And you don't necessarily even know before you do that how well it will end up selling. Well, with CreateSpace, what they do is they let you take this digital ebook and send it to them. They then publish it on the Amazon website as an actual book that somebody can buy and have shipped to their door. And then whenever somebody goes on the Amazon website and purchases one of your books, they print it on demand. So there's no investment. This allows you to cover both sides of this industry. To again have one book, to have it be published as both a digital and a print format using just these two Amazon companies and having your products just sold on the Amazon website. Now, ultimately, the kind of ebook that you create is really entirely up to you. I mentioned earlier a couple of different possibilities where you can create solely informational based types of books. You can create educational or training manuals to teach people something very specific. An example using myself, I have a lot of ebooks on Amazon teaching people how to do Amazon affiliate marketing, teaching people how to build websites for this type of purpose. You can also do entertainment where you're writing a novel, or maybe you're even just writing short stories that you are having published. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what kind of book you want to write. But before you just dive into something like this, what I really recommend to do is to first consider what kind of book you would actually be interested in writing. Try to figure that out first, and then before you actually start writing it, go on the Amazon website and do a little bit of research to try to figure out whether there is an interest for that kind of book on that website or not. Because not every kind of book actually has a decent audience on the Amazon website that is interested in buying it. Now, while you can't really find out the exact sales volume that is taking place on any given product on the Amazon website, something that you can do with that research is to take a look at how many reviews people or certain products have received on the Amazon website. I like to try to find a category that I like on the Amazon website. Let's say you're thinking about writing a crime novel. Go on Amazon and try to find their category for crime novels. In fact, I could do this here for you just to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I will go and I will search crime novel. I look at one of the top results, especially one that has a pretty large number of reviews on it, preferably, because chances are this product will likely be one of their best sellers. And then I go down here into the product details section and I look at the different Amazon bestseller rankings. And I can easily find their book category and even the subcategories that are listed underneath it. And sometimes these subcategories go pretty deep into very specific types of books that people are actually releasing. So just for example, I'm in the best-selling book category. So this would be all the books that are being sold on Amazon. And you can see what kinds of books are selling a lot more than other types of books. You also need to take into consideration how long one of these books might have been on the marketplace. For example, the number one selling book on Amazon right now has over 12,000 reviews. But then the number 3 best-selling book, it only has 40 reviews on it. Well, if I go and take a look at these novels, I can see that the number 1 selling novel, it was published back in 2012. Whereas the number 3 selling novel that has a lot less customer reviews on it, it was actually just published yesterday. So the number of reviews that are actually on a product by itself is not necessarily a pure indication as to whether or not a book is selling really well. But when you compare that with the amount of time that a book has been available, it becomes a lot more clear as far as at least a potential number of sales that could be taking place on this product within a certain period of time. Now, keep in mind, the number of reviews is not the number of sales that have taken place on a product. In fact, most people that buy a product will never even leave a review for it. So if you take this number of reviews and you multiply it 10, 20, maybe even 50 or 100 times, will get you to the more likely number of sales that have taken place on it. Now, I also mentioned that you can go into some of these subcategories to try to figure out whether or not a certain type of book is pretty popular. I went into the mystery, thriller, and suspense category, and I can see that there are a decent amount of books here that seem to be selling pretty well. There are numerous of them with thousands of reviews taking place on them. And then I'd be willing to bet that some of these that are up in this top row that have a lower number of reviews, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of these books have been fairly recently released. This one's actually showing a publication date on it of a month from now, which means that it may not even actually be available. It may just be within pre-sale right now. It looks like both of these first two are. This next book, which is a free audiobook that's being given away, this one was released back in January, but chances are it's probably just been made available for a free download. And so now it has likely propelled this book into being one of the best sellers. And again, every time somebody downloads this book, the person that wrote it, they're still making money. Amazon is actually paying them for that sale. So this same type of concept can be applied to really any kind of a book that is on the Amazon website, whether it's a physical book, whether it's an audio book, whether it's an ebook, to get some kind of a sense of whether or not the genre of book that you are thinking about publishing would actually have a demand for it or not. So this brings me to the next main topic of conversation that I'd like to have with you today, which is freelance writing. This is something that is not necessarily for everybody because it is involving a direct exchange of your time for money. However, if you're looking to get started in this industry and if you're in need of a fast source of income, freelance writing is one of the best and most reliable ways to go about doing it. The actual rewards in that regard are not all that great, I'll be completely honest. Especially for a writer that is just getting started. You may not get paid a ton for each article that you write. You may only be making minimum wage or a little bit above it. In some cases, you can actually end up making less than minimum wage doing freelance writing. Ultimately, though, what you get paid for a project, while it is up to the client, it's up to you whether or not you want to accept that project. So you can definitely find a lot more work out there if you are willing to work for a lower rate of pay, especially when you're just getting started and you don't have any kind of a reputation, or maybe you don't have any reviews built up on some of these freelancing websites. But then as you build your skills, as you build your reputation, you can certainly start demanding more money for your work. You kind of have to find a balance between the two, though. How much work do you really need to be doing, balanced with how much you're actually going to be making for, say, every hour of your time? The less you're willing to work for, the more work you can find. Whereas on the other hand of that, the more you're demanding for your work, typically the less amount of work you'll actually be able to land, at least until you get to the point where you have a really solid reputation for yourself. And then you might have clients seeking you out. You might have past clients that are constantly contacting you and telling you that they want certain things done. Now, on the side of whether this is a risky venture or not, this is actually one of the safest, easiest ways that you can go about making money on the internet, especially working from home. However, with that said, you do still want to be careful about who you're actually working for. you do want to have some kind of a trust in the person that you're going to be doing work for because you depend on them to actually pay you. With freelancing type of work, you're usually doing the work first and then you're getting paid for it later. So, for that reason, you kind of need that trust factor to be there because you certainly don't want to spend weeks or a whole month doing work for somebody that you've never done work for before just to find out that you're not even going to end up getting paid from this guy. Really early on, I learned that lesson the hard way. I took on a huge project that took me about 3 months to complete. I completed it around, I want to say it was October, maybe November. And I figured this would be plenty of time to get paid in time for Christmas because the reason why I took on this particular project was solely to generate some Christmas money. So I would have the ability to buy a decent amount of presents for my family, for my kids. I ended up not getting paid for that project until February. So you can imagine how being in that kind of a situation would feel, especially if it was something you were counting on. What if I had been counting on that money to pay my rent in December or something like that? It simply just wouldn't have happened. And sometimes there's not really a lot that you can do about that. But if you are careful from the get-go, if you are careful about who you do work for, if you are careful about what the expectations are for that work, you can really avoid that kind of stuff happening to you, especially when you work through one of these freelancing websites. In a lot of cases, you can get the person that is offering the project to actually put money into an escrow account to the point where you know that money is there before you even start working. And once you submit your work to that person through these freelance websites, if for some reason they're not willing to release that money to you in a timely manner, a lot of times the freelance website can get involved for you and to make sure you get paid. Now, one other recommendation having to do with this is whenever you're in doubt, if maybe you're interested in bidding on a project that somebody has put up there and they have no reputation themselves, if they're brand new to that freelance website. This is actually pretty common because there are a lot of people that will just do one random project on one of these freelance websites, and they may never do anything on that site again. Or they may just be doing that to try to find somebody to work for them. And then that one freelance project can balloon into more future work to do. So, for this reason, if you ever have any kind of a doubt with somebody particular, try to start with just a small project for them, even just one article, so you can kind of test the waters, so you can see how it goes. You write your one article for them, they review it, they pay you for that one article. Instant trust then becomes built on both sides of that story. The client becomes trusting of your work, of the quality that you will deliver for what they are offering to pay and under the terms of their project. You also have some trust built up for that client to actually pay you as they have promised to pay you. Now, I mentioned earlier that with this type of work, you can find work pretty quickly. In a lot of cases, especially if you're going after a really small project and your expectations and the client's expectations are made clear up front, it is very possible to go and find a small writing project for perhaps just one article in a single day, to get accepted for that project, to then do the work for that project, and to be paid for it by the end of that exact same day. Even if it's not a really quick project like that, a lot of times these things will progress pretty fast. If you're dealing with just a handful of articles, you can usually accomplish that work within a day or a couple of days, and typically get paid the day that you finish it, or maybe within a couple of days after you have finished the project. Now, again, one of the biggest drawbacks to doing freelance work is that it is a direct trade of your time to make money, just like a real job, except you have to work, or you can work from home. One of the other maybe hidden drawbacks to this type of work is the time that actually goes into finding and landing these projects. If you're constantly working on landing single article projects, for example, you may actually spend just as much time finding one article project that you actually get accepted for as it will take you to write that entire article. Sometimes you may even end up spending more time finding the project than you actually spend on the project itself. For this reason, once you can build up some trust with a client, sometimes you can do work on the side for them and have it not go through these freelance websites, to where you don't have to worry about landing every single piece of work that you're actually going to get. A lot of these clients on these freelance websites will kind of do what I'm recommending to you to do, where they just start with a small project. They have to actually pay the freelance website a fee every time they post and successfully have a project completed for them. So there is incentive on their side to just use these freelance websites as kind of a starting point to find a trusted freelancer that can do the work for them like they're wanting it to be done, and then they will provide more work for you outside of the freelance website. Again, another reason why building up that trust is really important, because when you step off of the freelance website, you're no longer under their protection to ensure that everything is getting completed as it's supposed to ensure that you're getting paid for your work as you're supposed to. Now, ultimately, there are a lot of different places that you can find work as a freelancer. There are a ton of different websites that are entirely devoted to freelancing. Some of these sites will be freelancing in general, to where there are all kinds of different types of projects, writing and non-writing projects, that will get posted on them. But then there are some sites that are completely devoted to nothing but freelance writing. Either of those types of site will actually work out in terms of being able to find this type of work. Ultimately, it's really kind of up to you as far as whether you decide to just focus on one of these freelance websites, or to create accounts on multiple sites like this, to give yourself the option of having more places to look for work. especially if you're going to be maybe a little picky about the actual projects that you accept. Maybe there are just not enough projects on one particular freelance site for you to bid on in any given day to actually keep you busy enough to actually allow you to make whatever income target you're trying to reach. So for this reason, you can certainly engage in using multiple of these freelance websites and even using stuff outside of these freelance sites, one of which I'll be talking to you about in just a few here. However, there are some advantages to focusing on just one freelance site, or maybe just focusing on a small number of them. If you're using 5 or 10 different freelance websites and you're constantly picking up work spread across all of these different websites, it's going to take a lot longer for you to actually build a name for yourself. When you do these projects, you get to review the client that has hired you to do the work, to report on, how easy they are to work with, whether they express their expectations and requirements for the project up front very clearly, whether they actually pay you and or pay you in a timely manner. So the same thing goes for you being the freelancer. The clients get to report on you. They get to leave you a review and say whether or not you have done a good job on the project, whether or not you write quality content, whether or not you deliver that content within the amount of time that you have promised it in. So ultimately, when you're focusing on a smaller number of these freelance sites, especially when you're first getting started, you can more quickly build a name for yourself. The more positive reviews you are able to accumulate on one particular website, the easier you will find it to land work on that site. Now, in just a few, I'm going to be sharing some tips with you as far as landing some of these freelance jobs. And so one of the things I will definitely be talking to you about will be how to actually go about getting your first job on one of these freelance sites. Because without having any of those reviews, it can simply be a little bit more difficult than it ordinarily would be. Now, there, as I mentioned, are a lot of different kinds of freelance sites. Just a couple of the more popular ones that I wanted to point out to you are freelancer.com, upwork.com, and freelancewriting.com. Now, I have used upwork.com before. I have also used freelancer.com before in a certain way. Freelancer.com actually, a number of years ago, they bought out a number of other freelancing websites. One of them was called scriptlance.com, and that's actually the site that I did the vast majority of my freelance work on. And so they transferred my old freelance account to this particular website. And while I have not actually done work for other people since this site was maybe not necessarily created, but since it acquired that Scriptlance site that I used to work on, I do still have an account there because they transferred all of the old accounts from those other websites into this one. So I just wanted to use this to kind of point out a few particular things to you. So this is freelancer.com. Once you sign up for an account here, I believe you can even do this without actually creating an account, where you can just go and search for jobs that are available to see if it is something that you would actually want to sign up for. Under work, you can simply browse the projects that are available. Once you set up an account here, you can browse for projects with your skills where you specify the types of things that you are good at, the types of things that relate to the kind of projects that you want to get. And it can help you to more easily find the kind of jobs you're actually looking for, because there are a pretty wide variety of different kinds of jobs that can be found on this site. Now, if you look below the actual project title and the description for it, you'll see all these different tags. These different tags are basically the different skills that are needed or requested for this type of work. So you can see there's graphic design here. There's programming. And then obviously there's stuff having to do with writing. There's audio work. There's translation work. There are actually quite a wide variety of different kinds of work that you can find on these websites. So it's not just limited to solely writing work. Now, if you are only interested in a certain type of work, go and look through their main page, the page where you're browsing all the different projects that are available, and look for something that is along the lines of what you're wanting to do. Maybe research or technical writing, book writing, ebooks. And you can just simply click on any one of these tags, and it'll take you to a page that's going to show you nothing but that kind of work. So this is one of the easiest ways to kind of narrow down the focus of exactly what kind of project you are looking to try to find. One of these tags is content writing. I think this would be one of the more fitting, appropriate tags for people that have gone through my writing course, because this is basically what I have taught you to do in this course, is to do this type of content writing. You can find at least a decent amount of information for the project by just looking at the title and the description that's available for it. You can find out when these projects were started. You can find out how long there is left on the bids for this project. You can find out how many people have already placed a bid on the project, and you can find the average bid amount. Now, some of the bid amounts are a flat dollar rate for completing the entire project, and this is what you'll end up getting paid. Or at least this is what the average person, the average freelancer has bid to get paid for this project. But the person creating the project, it's up to them who they actually choose. Some of these jobs actually offer to pay you an hourly rate, whereas some of them are just looking for a flat fee, an upfront amount that they know they're going to have to pay to complete the work that they are asking to be completed. Now, I'm going to come back to this site in just a bit when I get down to the freelance job tips, because there are a number of things that I want to point out to you that will help you to land more projects, and also things that will help you to avoid the bad projects. Both of those things are really important. It's easy when you're first getting started to just be blinded by, oh, this person's willing to accept me for this project, so I'm going to take it. But sometimes it's not a good idea to actually accept a project. You might be getting yourself into more work than it's really worth. It might be a big headache to try to complete particular projects. So I have a lot to tell you about that type of stuff. But before I get into that, I want to cover a couple more things here really quickly. One of them is another option of how you can actually find some of this freelance work. Beyond the freelancing websites, you can also use Facebook. Sometimes you can even use sites like Craigslist to find writing jobs. I've actually hired people for some writing jobs off of Craigslist before. I've hired some people off of Facebook before. Even though I have not actually used those sites as a freelancer myself, I've used those sites on the other end of the spectrum. And for one really big reason, Facebook and Craigslist or other sites like those, they're not going to charge you as the client for finding a freelancer there. They're free to use for that purpose. So this makes a difference to you as the freelance writer, because if a client has these other costs that are going to go into finding somebody to complete their project, it's ultimately going to basically reduce the amount that they are willing or able to pay you for your work. So if you can find this work on a site that's not going to charge the client, then you can actually end up getting paid more in the process. They'll a lot of times be, willing to offer not a drastically increased amount, but you can make maybe 10% more for your time by finding work on a site like Facebook. Now, ultimately, the main place that you would want to focus on Facebook is actually Facebook groups. There are tons of different groups out there for pretty much any possible topic that you can think of. And one of these is writing. Now, I'm actually a member of a number of these writing groups already. Um, just to point out at least a couple of them that I'm already in. This one is called Our Article Writers Club. There's almost 27,000 members in here. This one is called Freelance Content Writer. There are almost 10,000 members in this particular group. This one is called Content Writers Needed. There's over 24,000 people in this particular group. So using these groups, all you have to do is go and search for them. You can go up to the main search bar, type in content writer, you can type in just writer or writers, you can type in freelance, freelance writers, freelance writing, pretty much any combination of that type of stuff that you can think of. Just go up into the search bar and type it in. And then when you get to the next page, you want to be focused on just the groups that are there. You can either click on the See All button here. You can also go up to this bar up at the top and click on groups. Using this searching tool, you can just find a rather large number of these groups and just click on the join button as you go down, and it'll send in your request to actually join up that group. Look at the ones that you feel like will be the most relevant to what you are trying to do. Also, try to focus on ones that have the most members. A group that has 100 members or even 500 members, the chances of you being able to connect up with a client that is actually looking for work at that time, and especially one that is looking for quality work, that is willing to pay a little bit more for their work, the chances just become a lot slimmer when you're dealing with a fairly small Facebook group. But when you're dealing with one of these groups that has 20, 30, 40,000 members on them, it's actually not that difficult to be able to find people. So within these groups, there are two ways to go about using it. You can use it just like you would do one of the freelance websites, where you just scroll through the different posts are available and you try to find people that are offering work for what it is that you would like to do. So this guy here is looking for somebody to do a guest post on a tech-related niche website. But then besides looking for people that are actually actively trying to hire, looking for people that have actually posted something saying that they want to hire for a particular purpose, you can also do the opposite of that and just post something letting people know that you are available. This guy here is saying, I will write a unique article for you. And then a lot of times you can even attach a price tag to go along with it to let people know what you are looking to be paid for your work. Now, it's a little easier to get an understanding of how much you should be paid for work once you have actually completed a few projects before, which is one reason why I recommend at least trying one of the freelance websites first before you try to do something like Facebook, especially if you're going to be creating your own post looking for people to hire you. Because that way, once you've done a couple of projects, you'll have a better idea of how long it took you to write an article of a certain number of words, what you got paid for it, whether or not you felt like that pay was worth the amount of time and effort that you put into that project. And this makes it a lot easier to then later go and say, hey, I'll write a 500 word article and I want to be paid $10, or I want to be paid $20 for that particular article. Now, one more thing I want to mention before I dive in and start talking about some of my tips for landing some of these freelance jobs is something called copyscape.com. This is actually a site that a lot of freelance writing clients will end up using. They will take the article that you write for them and they will run it through copyscape.com to see if your writing is actually unique or not, to see if not just the entire article could be found on another web page, but it actually searches more than just the entire article. It'll search individual sentences. It'll even search portions of sentences to try to find similarities to other pages online. For example, if a client posts that they are looking to have an article written, especially if they're specifying that they want unique content, most clients are wanting unique content. If they say they want you to write an article, they're not expecting to get something that you've copied off of another website. Something that I have seen pretty commonly among freelance writers is if I say I'm looking to hire somebody to write a product review article and I show them the exact page on Amazon for that product that I am wanting the review written about, in a lot of cases, the article that I receive comes back and it's at least partially copied directly off of the Amazon website. Why would a client want to hire somebody to write a unique article for them just to get content copied off of a page that they sent you, showing you that particular product? Ultimately, some freelance writers feel like they can just simply get away with this. This is a lot more common when you're dealing with people that live in at least certain countries of the world. They are looking to do work for a really, really low cost per article or per word because they're not really putting forth the effort to write a high quality article. And so a lot of times they will still go after a higher priced project, one that is offering to pay a decent amount per article. And they will just simply try to pass off that low quality work just to try to get paid for it. So this copyscape.com, I feel like is something good to recommend for the actual freelance writers to use. Not because they need to verify that they've gotten quality work, but so they can verify that their own writing that they're going to be sending to the client, so they can verify that that is quality work. To verify that the client's not going to come back and be like, oh, I found different pieces of your article on these other websites. For me personally, anytime I have hired a writer and I've ran every article that I've ever received through this copyscape.com website, if I get back positive hits to where it looks like they have copied an article directly from another website, or maybe they have copied bits and pieces of an article from another website and just tried to change a couple of words in each sentence, Copyscape picks all that stuff up and it lets you know about it. And it shows you the exact web pages that that writing was copied from. So every time that I have received low quality writing work like that, I terminate the writer immediately. I will not pay for the articles that they have provided for me because they're not living up to what I have asked for in the writing project itself. And this is especially because when I've offered to pay writers, I don't try to cheap out. I'm not trying to pay them $5 for a 1,000 word article or something absurd like that. I might be offering $30 for a 1,000 word article. And I'm very specific about my needs that it's got to be 100% unique original content, that they need to actually put forth some effort. If they need to research the topic before they write about it, that's fine, but don't try to steal the content from another website. Don't copy and paste sentences from other websites and try to rearrange everything, try to change a couple of words, thinking that it's going to make that content unique, because it's not unique content. And Copyscape will actually pick up on that kind of stuff. So for this reason, I recommend Copyscape to writers as well. Check your work with it. Make sure you're actually doing a good job. It's not a free website to use, but you can actually make a deposit there for, I believe the minimum is like $10 or something like that. and they only charge you about 5 cents to scan each article that you put in. So for a client, 5 cents for an article is a drop in the bucket compared to what they're going to be paying for that article, especially if it's a higher quality article. So almost all of them will depend on this service to help them to quickly check and review the writing that they are receiving. So I recommend the same to writers. Use this to make sure you're actually providing high quality writing. Now, I mentioned that I have a number of tips for you to help you to land more of these projects, to make yourself a better freelancer, to make clients more inclined to want to pick you for these projects. Because just because you find a project and you're like, this looks awesome, I want to do this project, you still have to convince the guy that posted it to actually accept you. And sometimes it's not just picking between you and one other person. Some of these projects, all these projects, were just posted today within the last hour. Everything from here up was just posted in the last hour. A lot of them have more than 10 bids that have already been placed. This particular project, just in an hour, it's gotten 31 bids placed on it. So they're choosing between you and a crowd of people in a lot of these cases. For this reason, this is why I wanted to pass on a number of these tips to you. One of which is when you are brand new to one of these websites, you're really going to have a hard time getting noticed by the people that have posted these projects. They'll get to see all the people that have bid on their project, and a lot of times they will be sorted not by their bid amount, but by their reputation, by the kind of feedback that they have received, by the number of reviews that they have, by the completion rate that they have achieved on their projects. All the way down at the bottom of the list are all of the new writers. Everybody that has 0 reviews. They're all new freelancers that are trying to land their first job, essentially. So it takes more for these brand new freelancers to actually stand out, to actually get noticed by a potential client to the point where they're actually going to get selected. And you got to get selected for your first project before you can ever hope to have reviews and to start showing up higher up in this list. So for this reason, I have a couple of recommendations for you to help you to land your first project especially. One of which is try to find a project that is asking for a single article to be written, especially if the article is not going to be very large. Maybe it's a couple hundred words, maybe it's 500 words. I probably wouldn't recommend going too much above that in using this particular strategy, which is offer to do it for free. Write one article for somebody on a freelance website and don't charge them anything for it. Let them know specifically the reason why you are offering to do it for free. Hey, I'm brand new to freelancer.com. I have experience writing. I can show you these different samples of my writing that I have done. I would like to do this article for you without charging you anything so I can help to build some positive reviews for myself. So you offer to do the article just in exchange for getting one of these reviews. If need be, you can even do that a couple of times. So you build up not just one review, but a couple of reviews at least on your freelance account. This then will make it a lot easier for you to go and get accepted for better projects, for larger projects, ones that will involve more money. It will also make it a lot more likely that you'll actually get noticed and selected for some of those other projects going forward. Now, another strategy is to just simply bid extremely low. Maybe everyone else is bidding $50 on a particular project. Offer to do it for $20 or $25. Especially if maybe you only have one or two reviews on the site. Again, let them know the reason why you are doing something like that. If you're offering to do it for dirt cheap or for nothing at all, place your bid on the project, then send them a private message and let them know why. Let them know that you're doing it to try to build up some reviews. And you want to show them that you can do really high quality work. Let them know what to expect. Give them some samples of your writing so they know that you're not bidding really low because you're going to do a fast, low quality job for them. Let them know you're going to do an amazing job for them. And you're going to do it for them for way less than anybody else is ever going to be willing to do it. And let them know why, that you're doing it to try to help build up your reviews. Sometimes you can even do a project like that for somebody. Let's say they're just trying to feel out the marketplace and they're just asking for one article to get done, but they say they have more work that they're going to want to have done. And if they find the right writer, that they are more inclined to keep using that writer if they find a good quality one. So tell them that you're doing this to prove yourself to them, to prove that you can do a really great job, and that, future work you would obviously be looking to charge a normal rate for, but tell them that you're willing to do it for dirt cheap or even for nothing at all to get your foot in the door, to prove that you are a great writer to them. Stuff like that does not happen all the time, and it can really help you to stand out from the crowd. Now, also keep in mind that not all clients are looking for the top-notch, best quality work out there. You do have some clients that will be like that, and they're willing to pay for that top quality work. But you also have other clients that don't necessarily care whether or not they get an amazing article. And so at least some of the clients out there will sometimes choose the cheapest bid that has maybe the most reviews on it, and for no other reason than those two things. Sometimes they'll even just go after the cheapest bid, period, despite who the person is. Sometimes they don't even look at the people's profiles. Ask yourself, when you're reading through somebody's project listing, what kind of a client you think they are, and try to appeal to them. In that same regard, and some of the things that I have been talking to you about already, every single time you place a bid on a project, contact that person. Send them a private message. Give them some additional information about yourself. Let them know, not just by saying so, but make references to things that they have talked about in their actual project post that lets them know that you understand what their needs are, that you understand what they are expecting, what they hope to get out of this particular project. It helps you again to stand out from the crowd. Also make sure that you set up your profile on these accounts. Provide as much information as you possibly can. Any text that you are putting onto that profile, since you are wanting to do writing work, make sure it's good writing. Don't skimp out and write incomplete sentence fragments in your profile just because you think, oh, it's just a profile, it's not the actual work I'm doing for somebody. People look at that kind of stuff and use it as a way to kind of get a first impression of you. If somebody won't take the time to really fill out a profile and to do a good job on it, why are they going to take the time to do a good job on a writing project? Sure, some people might, but when all you have to go by is a bit amount, a message, and somebody's profile, you use those things to figure out who you think the best person for the job is going to be. So go the extra mile in those ways. Fill all that stuff out. Provide as much information as you can. Provide samples of your work. It's also super important. It helps to show some initiative. It helps to show that you are a quality writer that's actually going to do a good job for them. Those things will help to set you apart from the pack too. One other thing is that you really don't want to get yourself overwhelmed by a project, especially if it is a project that is asking for a large amount of work and they want a specific bid amount to complete all of that work. If somebody says, I want you to write 100 articles for me and they each need to be 1,000 words per article, a project like that can be pretty overwhelming. And ultimately, a lot of these projects, you're not going to get paid for them until you actually complete the work. So you might be thinking or getting blinded by the fact that people are bidding $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on this project and be thinking, oh, that'd be awesome to get that project. That would really solve a lot of my problems. But you don't really consider, or maybe you're not even aware of exactly how much time and effort it's going to take you to complete it. Once you get a feel for how all this works, once you get a feel for how long it takes you to write one article, how long it takes you to write every, say, 100 words or something like that, you can get yourself some more realistic expectations with a job. You can provide more accurate bids that will properly compensate you for your time. Until you get to that point, though, you really need to be careful about doing certain work like this, because you can really get yourself in over your head and either end up with a negative review or a project that goes uncompleted, or you can find yourself working twice as long as you thought you would have to earn a certain amount of money. Now, also be really careful about the clients that you are bidding on. There are vast differences, especially once you take a look at a number of these different projects. Read their project description. Ask yourself, what is this person actually asking me for? What am I going to be required to do to mark this project as complete and to get paid for it and to move on? On projects that are offering an hourly rate, it is okay to not have as clear of an understanding as far as exactly what or how much work the person is going to have done, because you're going to get paid by the hour. But you can really kind of tell the difference between clients. This particular type of client here, they're getting pretty specific with what they are looking for. They're talking about exactly what you're going to be responsible for, what they are expecting. This is a top-notch type of a client, especially since they're offering to pay by the hour here. This is an example of a project that you really want to avoid, though. Help me write something. They're offering a pretty wide project budget range here. And the only thing they tell you is, I need you to write a research article. And they don't have any reviews. How can you honestly place a bid on one of these projects? How can you say, okay, I'll do it for $250 or I'll do it for $500? It's easy to get blinded by the project budget sometimes and to throw out a bid on something like this without really being aware of what you're getting yourself in for. And then maybe they accept you for the project and you bid $500 on it, and they tell you, oh, it's a research article for my college course and it needs to be 100,000 words, or something absurdly huge. If you already accepted the project, you're either on the hook to complete it or you're going to have to cancel it, and it's going to lower your completion rate and make you look bad in the end. You want to have a really high completion rate, up in the 90% or even higher. So be careful about this kind of stuff. Look for projects that accurately describe what they are looking for out of you, that accurately describe what their expectations are from that project. And you will find yourself in a much better position to actually be able to follow through with everything that you're bidding on, to actually make the clients happy. That was a lesson, again, I learned the hard way. And especially because in addition to writing projects, I was also doing programming projects. So people would say they wanted something built for them with a programming project, for example. And once I actually got accepted for the project and got into it, guess what? They had all these different features and stuff that they didn't even mention, that they then wanted to, be a part of it, just because they gave a really short, fast description of what it actually was. Whereas when you're placing your bid, you're only thinking about the stuff that they are telling you. So if you're ever faced with a situation like that and you really want to try to bid on a project because it sounds good, before you place your bid, try sending a message to the person that has posted the project and ask for clarification. Ask them to tell you exactly what they are looking for, and do not place a bid until you completely understand what they are looking for. Now, I have a few other things that I want to very briefly talk about. This has to do with freelance work, but it basically combines the two things that I spent the majority of today's class talking about. Doing complete website building, but also doing freelance work, to where as a freelancer, you are not just offering to write articles for people, but you're offering to build an entire website for them. In a lot of ways, all this works pretty much the same way, but it's worth pointing out a couple of differences and similarities for this type of thing, just to make sure that you are aware of the potential here, and also so you can make a good decision as far as what you think will, be the best for you, what you think the best route will be to take having to do with your writing skills. The first thing I want to mention is finding work. Ultimately, all the same sources that I was talking to you about, the freelance websites, Craigslist, Facebook groups, you can use those same sources in a lot of cases to find not just a project to write an article or a batch of articles for somebody, but to find somebody that wants an entire website built for them. Now, there are also a number of benefits worth pointing out having to do with building an entire website as opposed to just writing a single article. The most obvious is the income. You can simply land higher dollar value projects from this type of work. But make sure you know what you are doing before you attempt to do something like this. It can be appealing to try to bid $1,000 to build a whole website for somebody. But if you don't really know how long it takes you to write 100 words or a single article, if you don't really know how much time or effort it's going to take to actually create a website, it's really hard to know whether you're going to get paid enough for your time for doing that type of thing. So this is kind of something that might come into play after you gain a little bit of experience first. But once you have that experience, once you have a reputation built for yourself, once you have all of that knowledge under your belt, this can be a fairly lucrative way of putting your writing skills to good use. For a lot of people, the simple act of setting up and compiling a website can be really time consuming. It can be frustrating for them. It could be just because they're not familiar with that process and they don't really know how to go about doing it. But if this is something that you know really well, maybe it even comes naturally to you. Maybe you've been building websites for a long time. It can a lot of times help you to get a higher rate of pay for the actual amount of time that you're going to put into a project compared with just doing articles, because the website construction is often viewed as something more technical, something that requires a certain set of skills. And while that is certainly true to a certain extent, with the invention of WordPress, you can learn to build websites and to not really have much in the way of technical knowledge at all. And so there are a lot of clients out there that aren't, maybe they're not having sites built for them on a regular basis. Maybe it's just a business that wants just one website built for them. It's not worth it to them to try to learn a system like WordPress, even if it's going to be simple, just to have this one website created. But when you already know it, you can take advantage of them being willing to pay more for that type of work. Maybe take advantage is the wrong phrase to use there. You certainly don't want to try to be taking advantage of your clients, but taking advantage of the situation. Just the fact that, they're looking for something to be done that is more complicated, more trouble than it's worth for them, at least, to do. Whereas for you, it might be something pretty easy to do. And so sometimes they are willing to pay a premium price for something like that. This also gives you more options of projects that you can bid on one of these freelancing websites. When you're just doing article writing, you're obviously limited to just the article writing projects. But if you can also do website construction, you can bid on still article writing projects when you find ones that you like, but you also have the ability to bid on these other projects. It simply makes it easier to find and continue to have work on a regular basis, especially if you're depending on this for your regular income. Now, as I mentioned really early on in this class, my goal of this lesson here is not to teach you every single aspect, every single step-by-step instruction that would be needed to do all of the different things that I've been talking to you about. I could probably spend my every waking moment of an entire day or even a couple of days and still not be able to teach all the different methods and concepts step by step that I've been going over here today. With that said, though, I do at least want to point out a couple of particular skills beyond writing that are needed or that are extremely useful to have to be able to do some of these other types of things. One of them is to be able to do the freelance website building. Others might just be to be building the websites for yourself. No matter which of those things you would be doing, you'd still need to have basically the same skill sets. So I wanted to at least point some of these skills out to you. If you do not already know how to do this type of stuff already, but you are interested in trying to build websites for yourself or build websites as a freelancer, you can simply use Google search as a resource to help you to learn how to do these things. Especially when it comes to WordPress, there's a lot of information out there about that subject. You can easily go out and find websites, free YouTube videos that will teach you maybe not every single aspect to it, but you can certainly find the basics enough to where you can write some articles and you can compile them into a fully functional website to be able to either use for yourself or to pass off to a client that you are working for. So if you are interested in doing something that involves website building, I recommend to just take a little bit of time going out to Google, researching a couple of these additional skills that I have listed for you here. Learn a little bit about them, and then try a practice run for yourself. Try to build a complete website for yourself first, so you can be aware of all the time and effort and make sure you can actually accomplish everything that is required for it. I recommend for you to actually time yourself doing it. If it's your first time doing something ever, it's going to be a little on the slow side. So if you time yourself that first time, you can almost guaranteed do it even faster the next time. It'll at least help you to get some kind of an idea of how much you would actually need to be bidding on, say, a complete website building project. Some of these skills are things like keyword research, where you would use Google search and or Google's keyword tool to help you to find different keywords or keyword phrases that would offer the potential for traffic. So you target a keyword phrase for each article topic that you are writing. And then when you publish that article, it has at least the potential of getting ranked in the search engine rankings for that particular keyword phrase. Topic selection is another big thing. I recommend taking the keyword research that you do, figuring out which different keywords you want to target, which different articles you are going to actually have on a site, and then turn it into an outline. What's your homepage going to be about? What main pages will your homepage link up to? What other pages will be on those secondary pages? What will they be linking up to? How does everything connect together? WordPress site construction is another really major one. Once you have your site planned, once you have all of your articles written, you basically just have to assemble it. And WordPress is one of the easiest ways of getting that done. And there's, again, a lot of free training out there that can teach you how to do this. It's also something that the average client can even be taught how to use in a basic manner, just so they can maintain their website. If they decide, oh, I want to change a piece of text, or I have this little section on my site having to do with monthly specials, and once a month I want to go into it and change the information that's there. It's pretty easy to show how they can log into the WordPress site once it's all set up and just go in and change one little chunk of text. It can also be an additional, essentially, service that you are charging somebody for as part of one of these freelancing projects. Minor graphics design work is another part of not all website building, because you can certainly make a complete WordPress website and not have a single bit of custom graphics on that entire site. But a lot of clients will want some kind of graphics work done, even if it's just a logo. Now, obviously, if this is needed, you'll be able to charge a little more for the project to incorporate this. And if this is not something that you can do yourself already, it's probably not worth the time to actually learn it. You can always just find a graphics guy that you could go to whenever you need, say, a logo created for a site that you're building, and you just outsource that work to somebody else. You get somebody else to make the logo, and you pay them X amount of money for each logo that they make for you. Another thing is marketing. Not everybody is going to want this, but at least some clients will also want marketing work done after the site is completed. Could be things like creating backlinks to the site from other websites, could be things like setting up social media accounts. It could even be ongoing posting of content to a social media account. Obviously, if this type of work is required, you'll definitely be able to charge more for the project. In a lot of cases, significantly more for a project. When I've done marketing work for full website building projects in the past, I will typically charge 50% more, sometimes even 100% more for the entire project. So if I was going to build a website for, say, $1,000, they wanted some extra marketing work done to it, it can easily increase the price to $1,500 or $2,000 just for that one project, for that additional marketing work to be added on. Now, the very last thing I want to briefly mention to you here is, just like I promised on the sales page for this course that you are a part of, I would actually hire you. If you can write a high quality article for me, just as a sample, it's not something that I will use in any way, form, or fashion. So write a high quality article, a sample article that you would use not just to send to me, but maybe that you would use to distribute to people that you are trying to land a freelance job for. Use that same sample article not just for me, but for other people as well. So whether or not it worked out with me hiring you or not, this is not work that would go wasted. It's something you would be able to use over and over and over again to help you to land projects. Now, I certainly can't guarantee work to every single person that submits an article to me. However, if you can write really great content, I will do my best to try to make sure I can hire you for ongoing article writing projects. So if this is something that you would be interested in at least trying to pursue, just send a sample article to the address that you see on the screen. This is my support ticket system for my business. You can also find this address in the guidebook for today's class on the very last page of the guidebook, ryanstevensonplugins.com/support. Now, just like I have done for all the other classes in this series, I want to go ahead and open the floor to open question and answer. If you have any questions you would like to ask me about this class, or since we are on the last class of the series, if you've been going through past classes and you found something that you had some questions about, I don't mind questions having to do with anything I've taught you in this entire series thus far to be asked in this class. John is asking, what is the payment structure for printed book publishing? It has been, trying to remember exactly how long since I last published a printed book through CreateSpace, I assume you're talking about. It's probably been roughly 3 years or so since I last published a book through them. I believe it depends on different factors. I don't think it's necessarily just a flat out that they pay you, X percentage of the book. I believe it is based on the price of the book, if I'm not mistaken. Some of the less expensive books, they might offer a lower percentage as opposed to more expensive books. You also have the option through them of, even though you can do it for free and have it published on Amazon for free, you can spend your own money and have a certain number of the books printed out and then sell them yourself. Going about it that way, you get obviously a much higher profit margin on the actual price of the book. Even if I threw out a percentage, there's probably a pretty good chance that it wouldn't be correct at this point. So if that is something that you're interested in, and that's really important to what, to whether or not you would actually pursue to write a book, just go on to createspace.com. Take a look at the information they give you there. Even create an account there. It doesn't cost anything to create an account. And you can explore all the different options that they will offer you there.